Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Dalton. I'm with the firm of Dalton and Tomich in Detroit, Michigan. And I'm one of the co-founders. And today, Larry Opalewski and Noel Sterett is with me. Larry's in our Detroit office and Noel is in the Rockford, Illinois office. And we're going to talk about RLUIPA Act 22. The Religious Land Use Act was passed in the year 2000 unanimously by Congress and signed into law by President Clinton. And since that time, there has been a number of cases that we've handled throughout the country. It was passed at a time when Larry was in 6th grade or 7th grade, and Noel was graduating from high school, and I was working away as a lawyer. You can tell I'm the old guy here. But we've done a lot of cases in our office over that time, and I thought it'd be helpful today for you to hear about maybe about 6 of them or so, and talk a little bit about RLUIPA and what its impact has been on us personally as well. So, Noel, let's start with you. What has been your most impactful RLUIPA case that you've worked on?
Yeah, one of the most recent ones and the most impactful one was the City Walk Urban Mission case against Wakulla County, Florida. This was a 2020 case involving churches' efforts to serve men in need and basically provide a transition home so that they could get back up on their feet, get off the streets, and find new life. And the county tried to shut the home down, tried to push the four or five men onto the street, back onto the street. And we came in and we represented the church, and we got an order protecting the ministry, protecting these men, and allowed them to serve, just to stay in the ministry and to essentially save their lives. And these men would have testified to the fact that they would have been out on the streets and could have very well lost their lives had the church not stepped in on their behalf, and had we not stepped in to protect the church. So we got the order. We also got $160,000 from the county to pay for the attorney's fees and for the church's damages.
Larry, how about you? What has been your most impactful case you worked on?
Well, actually, Dan, one of the things that you said talking about RLUIPA is that it was passed by a unanimous Congress. I think if you tried to pass something today that said the sky is blue, you'd still have at least one dissenter. So that's something that I always am amazed by, even to this day. As far as cases that have been most impactful to me, one of them is Hope Rising Church versus Penn Hills, and that was down in Pennsylvania. So that was a small church that was really just starting out and trying to get on its feet. They were so excited to get this building down there in Pennsylvania. They put a bunch of money and time and effort into renovating it and making it usable to gather for worship. They did everything the right way they should have. They went and got a certificate of occupancy from the municipality and had inspections done and actually started holding services, only later to have the municipality basically call the pastor into the principal's office and hand him a cease and desist order to say, you have to stop preaching the gospel here at this location. So they gave us a call and we went in. And this is, for me, it's impactful because I was a very young lawyer at the time, only a couple of years in practice. I remember writing the motion for preliminary injunction on this one. And I remember you went down to argue this one in front of the judge, who surprisingly decided to take testimony at the preliminary injunction hearing. But the judge agreed that the ordinance violated RLUIPA. We got the preliminary injunction order, and ultimately we prevailed on the case, and the church has been able to use that property and I believe still worships there today.
It certainly does, and that was a lesson learned for me. I think I was probably the most surprised person in the courtroom when the judge called for testimony, but that's a lesson learned. Now we prepare all of our witnesses for that eventuality if that comes to be. For me, the most impactful ones are the schools. We've helped a number of schools throughout the time. Hillsdale College here in Michigan, who had a facility in Connecticut. We've helped St. John Vianney in the St. Louis area. But the most interesting one and impactful one for me was Our Lady of Peace in San Diego. That is a school, it's an all-girls Catholic high school. The only one in San Diego, a very high-performing school on a campus that's just a beautiful, stunning campus that looks over Mission Valley, if you're familiar with that area. And there, they wanted just simply to renovate their campus. The neighbors didn't like the idea. They persuaded an individual who was running for council at that time that if he was elected, they would support him financially and politically, and as a result, he did get elected, and he put a stop to the whole renovation process. The jury found that it was a substantial burden and awarded damages of over $1 million. The court agreed with us and it gave the school injunctive relief to do their work. And ultimately, the buildings were built and the work was performed. And today, it's been about 10 years. The school now has a great relationship with the city. The campus has been completely renovated. New buildings have been built. A new parking structure has been installed in the area. These girls are just some of the most high-performing girls in the area. I mean, they come from all over San Diego County, even Mexico as well, to go to school there. And it's just amazing to see the transformation of that campus, and so grateful to see how that school has thrived since the work that we accomplished on their behalf about a decade ago. So the schools, I think, have been the most interesting and impactful to me. RLUIPA applies to ministries as well. And one of the more interesting cases we've had in our office is the one that Noel headed up down in Florida called Pasagrille Beach. Noel, what was that case about?
Yeah, so Pasagrille Beach Community Church wanted to use their parking lot to serve those coming and going from the beach. St. Pete Beach in Florida has the best beaches in the world, so people flock there to see the beach, but the church has this beautiful parking lot that just sits basically a block from the beach, and they wanted to keep that parking lot open so that the public could come in, and the youth groups can then go out and tell the people parking in the lot about the youth ministries that they have, the summer mission trips. They could raise funds just through donations. They could pray for people coming and going from the parking lot. They can evangelize and tell people about the church. Well, the city didn't want that to happen. And so the city tried to shut it down and gave them a cease and desist order, essentially telling them that they couldn't keep the parking lot open to the public and that they had to restrict it to those that they were there for church business, whatever the city meant by that. So we came in, we filed suit under the Religious Land Use Act. We got an order protecting the church's parking lot ministry. And we were able to get not only that, but we were able to get a court order requiring the city to pay over $250,000 to compensate the church for the attorney's fees that went into it and the damages that they had suffered because they had lost donations that would have gone to serve the youth in terms of their mission trips and otherwise. So this was just a great case because it shows you the breadth of the Religious Land Use Act, that it protects not just what you do in the sanctuary of your church, but also what you do even in your parking lot.
Larry, the RLUIPA has also played a role on lands involving governmental private deed restricted properties. One in particular I recall was one that occurred in West Virginia. What was that case about?
So that was the Summit Church case. And that was one where the client wanted to sell this theater to a church. The church and the property owners were clients of ours, and they wanted us to facilitate this transaction. And the theater was located in an old rail yard, actually kind of a cool location, and it had been purchased by this county development authority. And they were selling pieces of it off, but of course those were heavily deed restricted. And one of the deed restrictions was you could not have a church. So I remember this one was one that took quite a bit of work from us as a team to try to figure out the best way to help the client strategically. So I remember we were thinking, can we apply RLUIPA to these private deed restrictions that are being enforced by a public entity? So we made the argument and the court agreed with us, entered the order saying that the church could purchase the property. And this was another one as well where we were able to really make good use of the church's time and resources because we filed a motion for summary judgment basically up front, able to really make it so that there was not a very lengthy and expensive litigation process. So, and that's another church that I believe is still operating and flourishing today, and it's a really great outcome for them.
Yeah, RLUIPA does have a wonderful impact in terms of how it works with a number of different buildings and structures. And one of the favorite cases that I've had was one that was in the New York City area in South Hackensack, New Jersey, just about 10 miles from the George Washington Bridge. Client is North Jersey Vineyard. They started small, went from building to building to building, and they were outgrowing their buildings. And they found a former warehouse. It was basically one side of the building was a warehouse, the other side was an office. And they had an opportunity to buy that property. And it had plenty of parking, which is very rare in that New York City area. And it was just perfect for them. But the city didn't want them there. The city did everything it could to stop the building from, stop the church from occupying the building, to the point where the church was stuck and had to buy the building because of financing and because of timing perspectives. And it also had to lease its existing space through the type of litigation. So about a year and a half, it was kind of in limbo. But we were able to prevail. We were able to get the church in, and the church is really doing fantastic now. They've kind of tripled in size. They have a tremendous outreach on a food pantry. And they have a great relationship with the city now. The city staff, elected officials have turned over, and they work hand in hand with South Hackensack now on community days and helping out seniors and really helping out the community as a whole. And that's just really been wonderful to see. So it's been a great, that case is just a very interesting case to me, the impact that it's had on our clients and on the community as a whole, and how the relationship has changed from adversarial to cooperative down the road. Just a couple lightning round questions for you guys. Noel, with the Dobbs decision this summer, it's going to change a number of states in terms of how they look toward regulating abortion. And some are going to limit the ability to have abortions. Others are going to expand the ability to have abortions. But it's going to have an impact on one large religious group, or not group, but project, which is pregnancy care centers. You have a special passion, and you've worked on pregnancy care centers, one in particular in North Carolina. How do you see, what do you see in the future of RLUIPA and how it will apply to these pregnancy care centers down the road?
Yes, Dan, you're right to point out the Dobbs decision from the Supreme Court. It really changes a lot. And after the Dobbs decision came down, we saw a tremendous amount of vandalism and destruction of property at the pregnancy care centers. They quickly had a target on them by those that do not support what they do, which I don't understand, because pregnancy care centers just simply serve pregnant women in their time of need, providing them free services and free help and whatever support they can provide them. And nevertheless, they have a target on their backs, and we will soon see, I imagine, more restrictions from zoning and land use, from the zoning and land use side, from political powers that may want to limit where pregnancy centers can go, how they can operate, and maybe even impact how they can expand to better serve pregnant women in our communities. So it's good to know that the Religious Land Use Act provides pregnancy care centers that are religiously motivated and affiliated protections, so that we can come in and help them with this powerful federal law.
Larry, what is how has RLUIPA impacted you personally? These cases, we get involved with our clients. We kind of live with them in their darkest times and their most vulnerable times. What has that left on you? How has that impacted you?
Well, as a man of faith myself, one of the things that any group of worshipers holds near and dear to their heart is the ability to gather together as a body of worshipers and worship according to their beliefs. I know that if that was something that was threatened with my own faith community, that would be something that would be extremely difficult to go through. And most of these places are not looking to bother anyone or harm anyone. All they want is a place to be able to gather together and worship, and to basically be left alone. And it's a shame that there's laws out there, some witting and some unwitting, that impede that ability. And it's good to have a federal law on the books to be able to go in and say, no, this is our constitutional right to worship, and to worship as we best see fit. and to be able to help other communities be able to do that. So it's very rewarding when you get to the end and the church is able to open and services are held. And I know you've experienced that many a time as well.
It really is a rewarding opportunity. That first service in a temple or mosque, synagogue, or church after the case is over is just it's exhilarating. It's just a wonderful thing to see. And as well, when the school opens up and you can see the impact it has on generations of students as well, which is really amazing. Well, thank you guys. I'm just so grateful that you took time out of your schedule today to talk about RLUIPA, which is there's just a small community of us that get excited about zoning and religious zoning in particular. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being part of a great team. I mean, we work well together. There's besides the three of us, there's others in our office that work on these matters, and we take each one of these cases to heart. It's very important for us that going into a case and going through a case that we're walking through these things with you together. Larry and Noel lead our RLUIPA teams. Larry is in Detroit. Noel is in our Chicago Rockford office as well. I'm still involved with cases, but really, if you have questions and comments, please reach out to Noel or reach out to Larry. Their contact information is on our website, and they can assist you, or you can contact me as well. But we thank you for your time today. We hope you find this information really helpful, and we wish you all well in your religious services in the future.